Alright, so let's talk about Sinbad and Aboken. This would be chapter 74. Now, this one, it was definitely very interesting with the way that they were able to lure Mader into this contract. And that really makes sense, which, because I have no idea, like, what they were going to do for the trap. But it seems they've lured her into some sort of believable scenario that they're going to really enter the slave trade um, by using, of course, Rashid, King of Balbad. Um, and that was brilliant because he didn't have to do a thing. He did say he would help, but yet he couldn't help. All he did was have a cup with his friends, and that's it. That's all he did. He himself did not directly do a thing. However, of course, just the fact that he was standing there and was spoken of by Jaf'ar, right? He didn't have to say a thing. The fact that he was there, Jaf'ar said what he was going to do, etc. That's all it was needed because that alone backs the claim, saying like we're serious about this. Um, we are very serious. So um, it it does seem like it really does seem like they're doing something, uh, but they're not. They're obviously not going to enter the slave trade. This is obviously a trap, and this is going to come into full effect. I think between the insurrection that Sinbad is going to plan, is planning, I should say, versus, you know, not versus, but in conjunction with this plan to trap her, where I'm not sure entirely how it's going to go down, but I can tell you it's going to go down sort of like a house of cards, I would say. Not to be cliche, but that's sort of how it's going to work. Is in conjunction, it's like one thing's going to spark another, and etc. So that's going to be it. And we'll be back probably when 75 is released, actually. Okay, so let's talk about Sinbad and Aboken, chapter 75. Now, this is being recorded quite a ways from the 74. However, I chose to put them together because there's not much content in 74 that I talked about, so I figured I would put them together so you would have a slightly longer video to listen to. So there's not a ton in this either, but basically the main point is that they're able to get Mader into this contract. Um, and the main reason was Rashid, um, the king of Balbad. The fact that he was there, as I said for the last chapter, was what really convinced her that this was for real. Even though it's not. Um, this is all a ruse. Like, obviously, they're not really going to trade. But the question is, what is Rurumu doing? What is this contract? What did that just do to Mader that it hasn't done like that? Like, what can we not? Why does this contract have to be signed? It's a roundabout question that I'm trying to ask because it's hard to phrase. Like, there has to be something that she signed. She signed that contract, and that contract had to have been signed. That seemed like it was their goal to have her sign that contract. And the question I'm asking is why? What in that contract is so important that she had to sign it that otherwise this plan would not have worked? That's how I wanted to phrase it all along. It's hard to that's such a that was such a complicated question that it was hard to phrase properly. But there you go. What in that contract is so important that she had to sign that otherwise the plan would have failed? Um, basically, she was able to sign it with the whole, they're about to start, and we need 1,000. And even though she couldn't physically produce it, she's still going to sign the contract because what they're going to do is try to go to Sasan, Aramira, and Imachak and gather slaves from there because they're new territories for slave trading. There's a lot to pick from. Um, in other words, the proverbial well has not gone dry. In fact, the proverbial mine is just is ready to be mined, essentially. Um, but they're not going to do it. That's the point. They're not going to do it. They're going to lure Madar into something. Um, so perhaps she was on guard this time, but now that she believes them, she'll meet with them unguarded. That could be the case. Perhaps the contents of the contract don't matter, or perhaps she unwittingly signed something that will fuck her in the end. Will bite her in the ass. Uh, we don't know, but the second half of this chapter was about Sinbad, of course. Sinbad convincing the children that Mader does not love them. Um, Basically, they are slaves, not children. Um, and there's not much to talk about there because he basically does. He basically just convinces them, essentially. At least we're assuming he's convinced them, but we'll see next chapter, hopefully. Um, but that's honestly it. We know, again, from the beginning, we know the end game, but we don't know the middle. Um, so that'll do it. Thank you guys for listening, and I apologize that it's only. I apologize that they're pretty short, but there's really not much to talk about in these chapters because the content is very. Even if the pacing can be okay, the content is very simple. It's kind of condensed into like one or two main points instead of being super complex and having like five different things going on, like say Toriko or One Piece sometimes. But that's it. Thank you guys for listening, and see you guys next time.